Yo! Welcome back to the Wavetech server, the home of some of the biggest survival projects, as well as the unofficial Breaking Bad SMP. We are a technical server, which means we love making perimeters. In fact, we have 42 of them, including this one, which is the biggest perimeter ever made. Perimeters are super useful. They allow you to make your farms closer to bedrock, which boosts the rates. They allow our builders to go crazy, they make the game less laggy because there's less stuff to process, and they are insanely satisfying to make. Because of those reasons, we make perimeters for pretty much every single project, even those that don't require one. And nowadays it's actually rare that we don't make a perimeter for a farm or a piece of infrastructure. Speaking of farms, recently Lame started working on our record-breaking world border based Wither skeleton farm, and he already made some really good progress on the nether side. I want to help him, so I decided to make a perimeter on the overworld side, which is at the world border. Alright, the idea is cool, but how do we even get there? The border is 30 million blocks out in the overworld, or 3.75 million in the nether. Flying there with a flying machine or just your elytra isn't going to work for two main reasons. First of all, it would take ages to get there, we're easily talking about several days, and second of all, this would generate hundreds of gigabytes of useless terrain and nobody wants that. But Lame already got there, which means we have an alternative method, and it uses a really cool game mechanic. So basically, when hitboxes of two entities intercept, they are going to push each other away. Pretty simple. But have you ever thought what's really happening here? So when the golem gets processed, it checks if there are any other entities whose hitbox intercepts it. When it finds the pig, it is given some velocity away from the golem, and then when the pig's movement gets processed, the velocity does its thing and the pig moves away. Loaded chunks can be in three different states. First, you have entity processing chunks where everything gets processed. Animals move, redstone works, falling blocks fall, etc. Then you have lazy chunks, and what's interesting about them is that while redstone like pistons or unlocked hoppers still work, entities just straight up aren't processed, they are kind of frozen in place. They don't move, they don't do anything, they just exist. Then you also have border chunks where nothing, not even redstone, gets processed. And something very funny happens when you combine these two facts. Let's place a golem here, just barely inside of the entity processing chunks. Then when we place a pig in the lazy chunk and move it over so their hitboxes intercept, visually nothing interesting is happening, but in reality, the golem is constantly giving the pig velocity in this direction, but the pig isn't actively moving because it's frozen in lazy chunks. That means that its velocity is going to grow and grow and grow and grow, so when you finally make the chunk entity loaded, the pig will shoot away with very high velocity. And you probably know where this is going from here. If you lazy accelerate the pig for long enough, it will have so much velocity that it will be able to fly to the world border in a couple seconds, and if you mount the pig, it will take you there as well. Actually executing this in survival is a bit more complicated than that, but it has been done. This is a Rhythm's 360 pig cannon, which, as the name suggests, allows you to shoot the pig in any direction you want to. So right here, first of all, we have the selection panel, where you can select your destination, and as you can see, it's currently set to the world border. So then, behind the panel, we have this ROM made out of rails and observers, which basically stores the information about how long the pig is supposed to be accelerated for, depending on your input from the selection panel. So then the signal from the ROM is going to be sent to those binary counters, and they essentially just keep track of the time for how long the pig has been accelerating for. So another really cool trick that this cannon uses is lazy linking. So normally if you have a pig inside of a minecart in lazy chunks, like for example there, nothing would happen to the minecart and the pig. However, if you manage to push the pig out of the minecart in a specific way where the pig doesn't dismount the minecart, you can have the pig in a state where you can move it around wherever you want to, like you can have the pig right here, but the pig is going to be processed as if it was in lazy chunks. So this cannon uses it to basically accelerate the pig in a single chamber, which is right below our feet. The lazy linked pig is going to be pushed into one of those 4 acceleration chambers, and then a bunch of boats are going to be dispensed in the overworld and teleported here to this cursed portal. So, because the pig is going to be behaving like if it was in lazy chunks, it's not going to move around, but the boats are going to be colliding with the pig, so the pig is going to be given velocity. So after the binary counters are done, the pig is going to be pushed into this chamber, where it's going to be accelerated upwards with a bunch of TNT. So then the pig is going to be put right here. We're going to be able to mount the pig and, yeah, shoot ourselves to our destination. So I'm not gonna use the cannon just yet, because it takes 20 minutes to charge it up, and I still haven't gathered materials. By the way, 20 minutes to get to the world border is still pretty insane. So I'm first going to gather materials, and then I'm going to shoot myself to the border. Okay, first of all, materials for the freeway trenchers. Then I also need materials for the white trenchers. I'm also gonna need a bunch of sponges, gravel, and endstone for clearing liquids in those trenches. And I'm also gonna grab a bunch of resources to make a pearl stasis chamber at the border, so I don't have to use the cannon every single time. Alright, I'm pretty sure that's everything I have to grab for just making the trenches. However, in case I forget something, I made myself a pearl stasis chamber right next to the one that Lame made for himself. So if I remember that I forgot something crucial, I can just have someone teleport me here by just flicking the node block. Alright, so it's finally time to use the cannon. So the destination is already selected, so all I have to do is click this button. And yeah, the cannon is gonna do all the logic accelerating the pig, and I just have to come back here in 20 minutes to mount the pig and finally get yeeted to the border. Okay, so the pig is finally here, which means it's time to launch. So before I do this, one very important thing. I tested this in Creative first, and you're flying so fast that the sky is going to be changing color too fast, which means I'm gonna have to make this journey with shaders so the sky changes color more gradually. So yeah, all I have to do is to saddle the pig, and let's go. Oh my god. Look at my coordinates, 1.6 million, 1.8, 2 million, yep. Yeah, this is ridiculous. Okay, yeah, 3 million, just 700,000 more, half a million more. That is ridiculous. Just a bit more. Yeah, there we go, I can see the perimeter. Nice. And plop, there we go. Oh wait, we actually landed a bit further away from the actual destination. Doesn't matter. We're at the border. I have all the materials, which means I guess it's time to actually start working on the perimeter. Okay, so this is the border. So the perimeter I want to make is going to be your classic render distance perimeter, which is 528 by 528, but unfortunately I'm going to have to misalign the perimeter by a single block. So I already went ahead before on a copy and checked it out in Creative to see what I actually have to do, and I quickly realized that if I made the perimeter to be completely flush with the border, like if the border was the perimeter wall, that decision would lead to a lot more manual effort regarding the liquid clearance on the sides. Okay, so let's say I want to make a trench here, the trencher is removing the blocks, and suddenly liquids are flowing in, which means I would normally have to place blocks here. However, I can't do that because the block that I am targeting is outside the border. So the best way to place a block outside of the border is to get something like, for example, a trapdoor, close it, and place a block against it, and that's gonna place a block outside of the border. And I would have to do this for basically every single water source which is just outside the border, because otherwise it would flow into the perimeter and it would be, well, nasty. So I decided that instead of doing this and losing my sanity, I'm going to just misalign the perimeter and be able to just normally place blocks here to block the liquids from outside the border. I also built myself this pearl stasis chamber that I was talking about earlier. Okay, enough of this random bullshit, let's actually finally start working on the perimeter. So I first started by building and launching the 11 white trenchers on both the north and south sides of the perimeter, and while they were running, I also started clearing the liquids inside of those trenches. This is by far the most tedious task while making a perimeter, but surprisingly it was pretty nice to chill out for a bit while listening to the Oppenheimer soundtrack in the background. Can you hear the music and Trinity are so good? Okay, it's day 2, and yeah, the trenchers definitely made some progress. So unfortunately, this trench down here next to the border had a bunch of water, like there was a giant river here, there were also a bunch of like water-filled caves on the sides and everything. It was terrible. So one thing that I was doing to prevent the water from flowing into... Oh, nice job, Sodium. One thing I was doing to prevent the water from flowing into the trench is to place endstone on the sides so the TNT wouldn't blow it up as easily. But then I remembered that we are in 1.19.4, which means we technically have waterlogged leaves. So if you didn't know, any waterlogged block, including the leaves, is completely invincible to TNT. Like, TNT cannot blow it up. Which would be a great barrier because it's cheap, you can easily break it if you need to remove it later. However, then I remembered that it wouldn't really work that well, because then when I would have to sponge out the trench right here, it would unwaterlog the leaves, which means they would be able to be blown up again. And the second trench is at Y level -11, so I really hope that I can finish this trench even today. I want to address one more thing. So as you can see, I have a death waypoint because I died. And unfortunately the pearls in the stasis chamber somewhere there disappeared, so I couldn't just teleport myself here instantly. I actually had to use the cannon again. So yeah, I just wanted to come clean about it so I wouldn't get any comments saying that my levels don't match, for example, or something like that. Alright, it's day 3, and as you can see, the north trench is completely finished. I even removed all the random floating blocks, so yeah, the north trench is completely done. This means that it's time to now completely focus on the south trench, and the south trench is unfortunately a bit more difficult to work with. So unfortunately I was stopped by this. We have a giant lava lake right next to a water aquifer, and fortunately I have Andre here helping me clear this mess. Hi Andre.
Hello.
But yeah, this is gonna take a while to clear. The lava pool is super deep, so it is gonna take a while to clear it. So there are 2 common ways of clearing lava in those quantities. You either have water bucket fans, but I myself am a falling block enjoyer, so I'm just going to start filling all of this with gravel until I'm done. So yeah, that's gonna be a grind. And a grind it was! After Andre finished draining the aquifer, he helped me finish off the lava lake, and then we did some miscellaneous stuff like removing blocks that the trencher can't reach. We also managed to complete the south trench, and to finish the day off, we also built the 3 white trenchers on the east and west sides of the Perry. Nothing interesting happened on day 4. The trenchers broke a couple times, and also this horse got a stroke. That's it. So it's day 5, and as you can see, the west trench is completely done. And also the east trench is almost done as well, so today we are definitely going to start working on the World Eater. After gathering all the materials, I pretty quickly built the main side of the World Eater, and the return side went even faster because once again, Andre joined to help me. The World Eater I'm using was designed by Euler, and you can find it in the Slimestone Archive Discord. When we finished building, it was already pretty late, so I decided to launch the World Eater on the next day. Okay, yeah, so it's finally time to launch this baby. So, I already took a backup, so yeah, let's first maybe find where the on-off switch is. Oh, here. And let's go. So despite this perimeter being only 528 blocks long, it will still take a long while for this World Eater to reach the bedrock level, because there are probably going to be several stops, because there is going to be some random obsidian and things like that. But fortunately the World Eater is fully AFK. In order for the entire machine to launch again, every single sweeper has to arrive at the station, so the probability of this breaking beyond repair is near 0. So while the World Eater is running, I actually want to show you what are my plans for decorating this perimeter. So when it comes to the floor, I really want to use this nice hexagonal pattern designed by Eric and me. However, I'm not going to build it manually, no. 528 squared times 2, because there are 2 layers to this floor, is well over 500,000 blocks. So instead, I'm going to use the perimeter printer. So the perimeter printer is a machine designed by a fellow Wavetech member, Rufro, designed for automatically placing floors and walls which use a repeating pattern. So for example, this is a single tile of the pattern I'm gonna use for the world border parry. So what the printer does is it basically stores the information about which blocks are supposed to be placed in which order. Then it dispenses those blocks to an AFK player or a bot, who then places it, and using some block conveyors and floor placers, the one-dimensional block stream can be converted into a two-dimensional plane. So the actual printer is automatically generated by a program that Rufro wrote, and there's one really smart optimization that I want to talk about. So most patterns that we use have some kind of symmetry. Like for example here, this line of blocks is exactly the same as this line of blocks, and same goes here, and yeah, so on. So essentially, Rufro's program realizes that some lines are repeating, and instead of encoding all 16 lines, it only encodes the 9 unique ones, which means that the actual printer is going to be so much smaller, because instead of encoding 16 lines, you're only encoding 9. So this printer is only 10,000 blocks in volume, but it will be able to print those 560,000 blocks, or whatever 528 squared times 2 is. So yeah, it's going to be a really big time saver. We've already used the printer like 15 times on SMP, so we already know what to do and what not to do. However, if you want to learn how to use the printer, I definitely recommend checking out Kubik's video, where he made a really good tutorial on how to use this thing. But for now, let's check the World Eater. Oh yeah, that's some really nice progress. So I think the World Eater, yeah, it's stuck. It got stuck on some cobblestone. Yeah, unfortunately things like that are just going to keep on happening more and more the deeper we go and the more lava we uncover. But yeah, fortunately the World Eater is AFK, which means that we don't have to worry about it breaking. Progress update. We are at -18, however, the World Eater got stopped by a giant obsidian patch, which is right here. So as you can see, a shit ton of lava got converted into obsidian, and yeah, I already set up a beacon, and I'm unfortunately gonna have to mine it all manually. So when the World Eater was running, I was kind of just flying in spectator below the ground, and I noticed that this is actually a pretty terrible terrain for a perimeter. So as you can see, we have a bunch of those lava and water caves pretty much almost next to each other. Which means that whenever a World Eater will run through this location, the lava is going to be converted into obsidian. So there were also a bunch of open caves with a bunch of lava just exposed, where I was worried that some water may flow into the cave and convert all the lava into obsidian. So I covered some of them up with stone. So one of the lakes that I covered up was this one, and as you can see, the only patch of obsidian we have here is the one that's got generated naturally here. But for some reason, even though I was covering this one up, I somehow missed this one. So now, unfortunately, I will have to suffer and mine this through. And yeah, let's just say I'm gonna have another chance to listen through the Oppenheimer soundtrack. Even Trinity blasting at full volume can't silence the suffering I am experiencing right now. Alright, the World Eater is almost done. However, in order to have a smooth floor at the end, I had to stop it right here, where there is only one layer left. And now I have to do a couple specific tasks to actually end up with the smooth floor. First of all, make it so the TNT dupers only go down once, launch the machine, completely disconnect the dupers on the other side and lock it, launch the dupers again without moving them down, launch the sweepers, build the floor puller, launch the floor puller, launch the dupers again, launch the sweepers again, and that's pretty much it. Now I can finally focus on planning and building the perimeter printer. Alright, so as you can see, I managed to position both the printer and the floor placer. So unfortunately, when I was working on it in creative, I realized something very important. So unfortunately, 528 is not divisible by 30, which is the width of the pattern that I'm using. Which means that unfortunately the printer can only print 17 patterns in a row, and the 18th isn't gonna fit. So unfortunately I'm gonna have to place all of this area going to the other side of the perimeter manually after the printer is done, but that is absolutely fine. So even if the width of the tile was a perfect divisor of 528, I still wouldn't be able to print it all the way to the border because of the border. So as you can see here, the block stream has a bit of thickness. So if I tried printing from here, the block stream would have to go basically outside the border, which, well, I can't really place it there. So it would have to be a problem regardless of how well the tile would, you know, work with the size of the perimeter. But yeah, I also managed to go to the main storage and I gather materials for both the floor placer and block stream as well as the printer, so now I can finally start building it. Building the printer itself was pretty boring because I've already done it so many times before, so here's a clip, let's move on. Ooh, alright, it's finally time to launch the printer. So I already prepared everything, even with the materials. All the materials are already in the storage. So now I first of all have to spawn a carpet bot. Okay, perfect. Make him use continuous. Ooh, okay, and I am finally ready to launch the printer. So all I have to do is to flick the lever in just a second. It's caching items and... yeah, there we go. Nice. So I probably should explain why the printer bot is placing so many ugly blocks, even though in the previous clips I showed the pattern, well, the first layer having only stone and like concrete and netherwort blocks. So whenever we are printing a pattern which is 2 layers deep, we tend to print the first layer with a bunch of ugly blocks just so, well, first of all, it looks kind of funny that you printed in the entire perimeter with the worst pattern possible. But then printing the second layer actually looks kind of satisfying and kind of magical, to be honest, because all the ugly goes away and you're left with an actually good-looking pattern. So yeah, unfortunately our eyes are going to suffer for a bit, but after we print the second layer, it's going to be back to looking pretty good. So now as a human, I don't have to do anything. Like, I can literally come back to it in 24 hours and the entire floor is going to be printed. Oh yeah, beautiful. Well, I mean, objectively terrible, that's kind of the point of making the first layer ugly. But what's beautiful is that everything worked fine without a single problem throughout the runtime. Which, you know, after building and running it so many times you would kind of expect, but it's always so satisfying to see the entire thing printed automatically. So much time saved. So in order to print the second layer, I basically just have to remove those block streams as well as the floor placer, and rebuild them here at the start, but 1 block higher, because the second layer is going 1 block above this one. And when it comes to the printer itself, all I really have to do is to get rid of those extra items that were left from the first layer, and replace them with the items for the second layer, which I also already gathered. But yeah, fortunately I don't have to rebuild the printer itself, no. Literally all I have to do is to swap the materials in the chest, and probably also reset this shulker based ROM, but yeah, that's gonna be fine. And that's exactly what I did. So I also already started the printer because I may have forgotten that I wasn't recording, but whoopsie. Anyway, you've already seen how the printer is started, so it doesn't really matter. So yeah, now we're printing the second layer, which is going to finally cover all of the ugly blocks like the magma blocks and the emerald blocks. It's actually kind of interesting. Emerald blocks have the special ability of ruining every build palette possible. Like, seriously, it's so rare that I see a good looking pattern using emerald blocks. Like, seriously, that's a nice challenge for any of you builders. And here you can see what I was talking about earlier. When the second layer is printed over the terrible first layer, it literally feels like you are printing a completely different pattern. Like, you literally have to force yourself to actively look for the parts of the first layer that are still visible through the glass, just because the color palettes are so different. After the printer finished, I went ahead and got rid of the floor placer and the block streams, and I also manually built the unprintable strip that I was talking about earlier, and also I got rid of the printer itself with a trencher. Digging it manually would have taken so much more time, it's not worth it. And that's where we are right now. As far as I'm concerned, the perimeter is finished, except for, obviously, the walls, but we don't even have a design for them, so who knows how long that's gonna take. Considering you made it till this point, you definitely like this type of content, so you should definitely subscribe. Also, join the Wavetech Discord server to be more up to date with what we are doing, and that's basically it. See ya!